In 2003, researchers tracking a herd of elephants in Amboseli noticed something. One female had separated from the group. She walked for 2 days without stopping, without eating, without rejoining the herd. She lay down in a dry riverbed far from any other elephant, and she died there alone. The herd never came to find her. They already knew. This is not a story about grief. It's not about instinct in the way we usually mean that word. What this elephant did, and what dozens of other species do in the same circumstances, sits in a part of animal behavior that science is still trying to name correctly. The behavior is documented. The mechanism is partially understood. The reason behind it, the real reason, is still open. Start with what we actually know. Across species, a consistent pattern appears in the final stage of life. Animals withdraw. Not all of them, not always, but enough that the behavior has been documented in cats, elephants, wild dogs, certain bird species, and a small number of marine mammals. They separate from their group or their home range. They move towards somewhere quieter, somewhere unfamiliar, somewhere removed. And they do it before the death is obvious. Before the body has given every signal that the end is coming, something else already has. The first explanation researchers reached for was predator avoidance. A sick or weakened animal is a liability to a group. Its sounds, its scent, its slowed movement all attract attention from predators that the healthy members of the group cannot afford. Withdrawal, under this model, is protective, not for the dying animal, for the ones left behind. The evidence partially supports this. In wild dog packs, terminally ill individuals have been observed moving away from the den site in the final days before death. The pack does not follow. In some documented cases, the pack's behavior shifts the moment the individual leaves. Tighter formation, shorter ranging distances, as though they have already adjusted to the new number. The departure is not a surprise to them. It appears to be expected, but predator avoidance doesn't explain everything. It doesn't explain the specific locations animals choose. It doesn't explain why cats, which are predators themselves, and live with humans in environments with no meaningful predator threat, still disappear before they die. It doesn't explain the distance. Some animals travel significantly further than any predator avoidance logic requires. They go past safe spots. They pass locations that would be adequate. They keep moving until they reach somewhere specific. What that somewhere is varies by species. For cats, it tends to be enclosed and dark, under a porch, inside a dense shrub, behind something solid. For elephants, it tends to be near water. Not always, but often enough that researchers working in elephant range countries have noted it across multiple populations. For wild dogs, it tends to be elevated ground, away from the den, above the flat terrain, somewhere with a view. The consistency within species is the part that resists a simple answer. These aren't random locations. They are the same kinds of places, chosen by the same kinds of animals, across populations that have never had contact with each other. That pattern doesn't come from learning. It comes from somewhere deeper. In 2017, a study published in Applied Animal Behavior Science examined end-of-life movement in domestic cats across a sample of several hundred animals. The researchers found that cats who disappeared before death were not behaving erratically. They were not confused or disoriented, which dying animals sometimes are. They were moving with intention. The cats that left chose specific directions. They moved away from noise. They moved away from other animals in the household. In multi-cat homes, the dying cat consistently moved to whichever part of the house the other cats used least. They were not fleeing. They were finding. There is a second layer to this that the predator avoidance model cannot reach. In social species, the animals who are left sometimes know before the withdrawal happens. Elephant researchers working in Amboseli and in the Samburu Reserve have documented cases where herd members began treating a specific individual differently weeks before that animal showed obvious physical signs of decline. Less contact, less play initiation, a subtle reorganization of how the group moved around them, as though the group had already received information that the dying animal had not yet fully processed itself. How that information travels is not understood. Elephants have a sophisticated chemical communication system. They produce infrasound, low-frequency vocalizations below the range of human hearing that carry across several kilometers and carry social information. Whether decline or approaching death produces a signal detectable by other elephants is something researchers have proposed but not yet confirmed. The behavior that suggests it is real. The mechanism is still missing. The question this raises is not comfortable. If some animals know they are dying before the obvious signs appear, and if they make deliberate choices about where to go and how to separate themselves based on that knowledge, then what exactly is happening in those final movements? What is the dying animal orienting toward? The honest answer is that we don't know. What we have is the behavior. The cat moving to the quiet corner, the elephant walking 2 days to a dry riverbed, the wild dog climbing to higher ground, each of them moving through a world they are leaving, making a last set of choices that serve no survival function for themselves, and in some cases appear to serve the group they are leaving behind. There is a version of this that is purely mechanical. Chemical signals, encoded behavior, evolutionary pressure filtering out individuals who die in ways that harm group survival. Clean, functional, resolved. And then there is what it looks like from the outside. An animal that has spent years inside a group, a herd, a pack, a household, choosing in its final days to move away from everything familiar towards somewhere quiet and alone. Making that choice with what researchers consistently describe as intention, directness, purpose. Whether there is anything it is like to be that animal in those final hours, whether the elephant lying down in the dry riverbed is experiencing something, or whether we are the ones doing all the experiencing on her behalf, the science does not say. The animals that are still here to study are the ones that solved this problem before we arrived to watch them solve it. What we are seeing when we see an animal withdraw to die is the end of a calculation that started long before us, and that we still don't fully have the numbers for. The female elephant in Amboseli lay down and did not get up. The herd moved on. Whatever passed between them before she left, if anything passed at all, left no trace the researchers could find, only the distance she walked, and the place she chose to stop.